Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. All right, guys, welcome back to episode 14 of the Mali Mission podcast with your host Farhan Rana. Really happy to be back with you guys. I know I've been off the last week. It was the first week of Ramadan, so just figuring out my sleep schedule, my eating schedule. Just a lot of things were in motion. So I do apologize if anyone was looking forward to a video from me or a podcast from me. But this week I'm gonna double up on that. So I'm planning, inshallah. This is really ambitious. To post 6 episodes this week. Not so much to make up for what I didn't do last week, but really just to see if I can, whatever the term is, sextuple my output and really give more value to you guys. So I'm gonna try and do that. That's my commitment to you. Obviously, if we don't get to it because of something comes up or my sleep is just like I'm just totally out of it, just letting you guys know. So this is a really good topic that I kind of thought of, and it was just really coming from this place of when guys get into the gym, why don't they see results? Right. So like when you go in there, you start maybe the first of the month of January. You go in, you're really excited to see some progress, look like a male model by the end of it. But you go in there with some kind of plan, but you don't really get the results you want. So why is that? I really want to focus on that. Before we get started, like always, I do have, and I keep mentioning this, but I really did put a lot of effort into this free workout plan that I've created for you guys. It has everything that you could need to really get started. It's a 7-day workout plan. So go to farhanrana.com/workout. That's FARHANRANA.com/workout. Get it, download it, use it as much as you can. It has links to this one app I use. So you just go in there, tap on those links. The workouts get downloaded to your phone. I give some tips on what to eat and supplements, all that kind of stuff. So there's really no excuse for you guys to not see some progress with this free workout guide. I really put a lot of effort into it, so really make the most of it. And you should see some results from that. All right, so getting into the video for today. Tip number one, or I guess step number one to all of this, is to really set tangible strength goals, as opposed to how much you want to weigh or what you want to look like or any of those subjective factors. And I call them subjective because there's not a lot of that. There's some things that you can do to control those in terms of like what you eat and how you sleep and what your overall lifestyle looks like. But raw numbers on the bar or on the dumbbells that you lift or whatever machine you're using, those are real. I mean, you can look in those and be like, okay, I see like a 10-pound progress since last week, or now my bench press is 225 as opposed to whatever it was 3 weeks ago. So I would really challenge you guys to focus on those instead. And I know this might run counter to what a lot of other fitness experts might say. They might say like, oh, as long as you can tangibly see that you've put on 5 pounds of muscle, or like your biceps are like 2 inches bigger, or whatever the case may be, that means you're making progress. I don't disagree with that, honestly. But for someone who has no idea what they're getting into, and they really need a step-by-step plan, they need like a roadmap to get started on all of this, having a roadmap in terms of what you can lift in terms of like your strength goals, that is motivating, because you can be like, okay, in 12 weeks I can expect to lift this much on, say, the overhead shoulder press. If I'm starting for the empty bar, in about 12 weeks I can lift maybe like 90 pounds or something total. That's motivating, because you can look at that on a weekly basis and be like, okay, how closer am I to this goal? And am I doing, and what I'm doing in the rest of my workout in terms of my accessory movements, is that contributing to this? I mean, you get into a really good headspace when it comes to this. And the second thing, honestly, is like, you don't want to complicate this. And I'll get to this a little later in terms of like keeping your workout routine and your workout mindset really stress-free and really simple. You don't want to complicate this, because what a lot of guys do, and I was a victim of this as well, is that you go in, say it's like chest day. You say, okay, like I'm going to start with the flat, bench press. I'm going to do like 3 sets of 8. Then I'm going to do incline. Then I'm going to do whatever it's called, cable flies. Then I'll do, something with the dumbbells. And that's all fine. that's totally fine if you're doing like a bro split or a bodybuilders type workout. That's what you're going to be doing. But for someone who's just starting out, someone who has limited experience with all of this, someone, my target audience, and I'm going to be very frank about this, are people who are busy professionals, people who don't have a lot of time to spend really analyzing what the best workout is and how to really optimize everything. They're really just focused on, I'm skinny fat. I don't feel like I have a good positive self-image, and I want to become stronger. I want to put on a decent amount of muscle. What can I do that's going to be effective, like really effective, but it's also going to be very simple, and it's not going to take away too much time from the limited amount of leisure time that I have or the downtime I have, which I want to spend obviously with family and friends and doing my own things, which I totally understand. So for them, or for you guys, I should say, focusing on strength goals that you can reliably predict where you're going to be is going to be the best way. It's going to be simple, it's going to be stress free, and you're going to know exactly, with a good amount of predictability, within a reasonable amount of time, like a time frame, I can expect to lift this much. And I'll get to this later, but that will correlate with how you will look, because let's be honest, like no one sets out to lift like like a 3 plate deadlift. What they want to do is have a strong back, or like a really good looking back or whatever, just as an example. So what I thought I'd give you guys are like some examples of some goals you can set. And these are going to vary from what you've currently, depending on your current level of experience. You should have a decently equipped gym, so that shouldn't be an issue. And more so, like, what are you focusing on in terms of like your weak body parts? Maybe you've done like tons of squats because of your current sport or whatever, so you don't need to worry about that movement particularly. But let me just give it to you guys, and hopefully this makes sense to you. So for absolute newbies, people who have 0 to 3 months of experience, and this is coming from a place of experience, like, I'm someone who went through this. I think a 1 plate bench press, and I'm not going to worry about pounds versus kilograms. A big plate, the biggest plate you can find, that's what I'm talking about. 1 plate bench press, 1 plate squat, and a 1.5 plate deadlift, 5 clean pull-ups. And I did want to put something for overhead press, but I'll leave that up to you guys. Let me repeat that one more time. 1 plate bench press, 1 plate squat, 1.5 plate deadlift, and 5 clean pull-ups. If you can do that within the first 3 months of lifting, you're off to the races. You're doing a really good job. And I think this is really realistic for a lot of people, especially if you have no experience whatsoever. You're just like coming into this fresh and you just want something to get started on. This will be really motivating for you. I can tell you that when I started and I went to the gym for the first time, like I saw guys lifting like the 135 pounds on the bench press, and I was like, man, how do I get to that? It's not like I've obviously achieved it like a long time ago, but like when I saw that for the first time as like a 19-year-old kid, I was like, how do I do that? Like that, you must be super strong. You need to be like super strong to like do that. That's not as like, it's obviously very achievable. That's what I'm trying to say. And having this goal in the first 3 months to do it, and 3 months is like a short enough time frame where you can be like, okay, you can be motivated enough to do this, but it's long enough where if you have like slip ups or your body's just getting used to the new stimulus you're putting on it, it's going to be a good amount of time to really work out those wrinkles or whatever in terms of your workout, your body, your physiology, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's a great starting point. Now the next level just above this is for beginners, and you could call these guys like somewhat they're not advanced, not even intermediate. I would stick with beginners, so I'm going to make the distinction between newbies and beginners. Totally arbitrary, you can feel free to disagree with me, but what I'm saying is beginners who are 3 to 6 months into working out, what you should aim for is like a 1.5 plate bench, 2 plate squat, 2.5 plate deadlift, and 10 clean pull-ups. I think that's really reasonable, especially considering that if you're moving straight from the newbie stage to the beginner stage. I probably set the bar really low in terms of like maybe the bench press and the deadlift. So you can feel free to disagree with me and tell me like, you should bump this up a little more. But like I said in the very beginning when talking about this point, these are just examples of what you can do. And my point is really to motivate you guys and tell you, like, hey, you can definitely get started on your fitness journey, get stronger. And this is one way to do it, is just set tangible strength goals with a time frame associated with them. So really focus on that, guys. Number two, keep the workouts focused and simple. This really, I talked about this briefly, but let me go into it in more detail now. Um, Very simple structure that you want to keep for your workouts: compounds first, and then your isolation accessory movements. I mean, this should make sense. But what I've seen a lot of guys do, and I didn't really do this too much because I found this 5x5 strength program, so I like kind of like had this um, this kind of propensity to be like, okay, let me just do compound first and then do whatever. Um, but I think you might relate with me in terms of like, if you go in to do, say, shoulders, you might start with like the lateral raises and then maybe front raises, and then you'll be like, okay, maybe I should do some overhead press. Maybe you're not like that. Maybe you kind of know this. So I mean, just good reminder. And kind of building on this point about keeping your workouts focused and simple, is you also want to understand like how much stamina you have in terms of like how long your workouts can go. That's gonna really determine how effective those workouts are gonna be. Because if you set to do like 8 different exercises and you're like gassed out by like the fourth exercise, I mean, it's one, you've complicated your workout for no reason, and a lot of that extra movement, extra exercise you're doing, they're probably not helping you as much. They don't have as much of an ROI in terms of what you're trying to achieve. And then B, you're gonna feel like, okay, like I didn't hit all of my 8 exercises. Like, what was I doing at the gym? You don't want to get into this negative headspace. There's a lot of forces going against you just in your own head when you're just starting out, and even when you're into this. There's a lot of stuff going in going like in terms of mentally, that's really going to push you away from, or try to push you away from, making progress. So you want to really limit that and control that as much as possible, and really keeping your workouts focused and simple is going to be the way to go. And let me just expand on these two terms because I'm talking about them, obviously. Focused, you want to have, if and I'll give you both, two ways of thinking about this. Focused one in terms of like, okay, I want to do compound movements. I really just want to do like a power lifter kind of workout plan for the next 3 months. I'm just going to do that, maybe throw in some accessory movements, totally fine. Another way to think about it is like, okay, I want to do like a bro split kind of thing, like the chest, back, all that kind of stuff. You want to really have a dedicated plan for what you're going to do on that day. Don't just wing it. Because if you wing it, you're not getting the best workout because, I mean, what are you doing in the gym? And then B, how are you going to track what you're doing in the gym, especially if you just go in there like, let me just hit like a 30-minute workout, and you don't use an app to track it. You don't have like a plan of like, okay, last time I did, say, like 85 pounds of the overhead press, now I want to do like 90. That's been a goal of mine. Like, you won't really have that kind of motivation too. So really keeping your workouts focused, that's what I mean. Having a set plan for each of them. Then simple, I mean, that's just obvious. Like, you want to really determine what are the best exercises for you to do in that workout, and just stick to them. And don't deviate from them too much. If you want to have some fun, try out some new like machine that the gym put out, totally fine. But the majority of your workout should really be, these are the exercises that have the most ROI for me in terms of what I'm trying to do. Let me just focus on them and not worry about anything else. Like, the more you complicate your workout, like I've already said this, you're just gonna not get the kind of results you want. So that would be the second tip on this topic. And then what I'm gonna say now it might sound contradictory, but it's totally not. Point number 3: stop obsessing over your goals and instead focus on showing up consistently in the gym. Now, the first point I said was set tangible goals, right? Now, why am I telling you to stop like looking at your goals? This comes from my experience when I started out. Obviously, what I did was I set this plan as like, okay, like within like the next three months, I want to lift this much on the squat, bench, deadlift, T-bar row, overhead press, like all these different exercises, right? But then what I did, like what I really shifted my focus towards was like, okay, let me just get to the gym 3 times a week. If I can get to the gym 3 times a week and follow this program that will get me to those goals, realistically, I should get to these weight goals within this time frame of 3 months that I set out for myself, right? I didn't focus so much. I wasn't looking at like how much further am I from like my bench press goal. I mean, it was there, but it was like occasionally every couple of weeks I was like, okay, like where am I currently, um, in terms of getting to my goals. But my main priority, my main focus, was just getting to the gym 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Just be in there. Doesn't matter what's going on. Just be in there. Hit the workout, even if it's subpar, even if you just hit half of it. Let me just go in there and let me just do what I have to do. And if you slip up or you have a bad week or something just came up, you'll you'll feel less motivated, to keep going if your focus is on hitting these goals. If you're like, oh, like, if I skipped, this week was so bad, like I didn't get to go. Now my my plan to like hit my 3 plate deadlift is like I'm not gonna hit it by this current date. I mean, you're just gonna feel like bad, and you're not gonna be in a good headspace. And I talked about this. Being positive on this journey is so important. I would rather that you have that bad week and then be like, okay, I'm just going to recommit to going 3 times a week now. So what if like my goal, like my desired, date to like lift this weight is like a little off? That doesn't matter. What I'm focusing on is ingraining positive habits. I'm committing to going 3 times a week, 5 times a week, whatever the case may be, and I'm going to commit to that. The results, they're there. That's what I want to achieve, but really becoming that kind of person who lifts. And I do want to do a separate episode on just like identity when it comes to fitness and success and all this kind of stuff. I don't think we talk about this enough in terms of like you need to become the person who is all about fitness. Like you don't just work out, you become the person who is a fitness enthusiast or whatever you want to call it. But that's going to be a totally separate episode. Okay, and the last point, number 4, is eat like a man. That probably just caught you off guard, but I really do mean this. Get your protein, obviously. Yeah, don't skip on that. Get your carbs. That's understood. I mean, you should understand that by this point. In terms, if you've been following me for a while, or if you've just been in this fitness space for a little bit, and what I mean by this is that you don't want to, I don't know how to really word this, but you don't want to be too worried about like how you look, or like be too like oh, like I'm looking a little chubby, on my waist, or like my face is a little like fluffy now. Am I doing something wrong? I know I just went up like this good amount of weight in the gym, but am I doing something wrong? I mean, that's just what bulking is. Like that's what you do. Like you eat a little bit more, you put on a little bit of fat. I mean, that's totally unavoidable. If you're doing like really clean diet, I mean, that's good. But I mean, let's be honest. A lot of us, when we get started, or like once we get into the flow of things, we're gonna feel tempted to eat like a little bit more of the unhealthy food. It's just gonna happen. Obviously, hold yourself accountable, meal prep, all that kind of stuff. But it's just gonna happen. So I wouldn't worry about it too much, because your focus, especially if you're listening to this video and you're resonating, is that you want to get strong. You want to have some tangible result in the gym. And, this is the last point I'm going to talk about, is that your muscle gains, or how you look, is going to correlate with how strong you are. I don't know why we have this kind of confusion that do you want to become strong, or do you want to look muscular? Like, why not both? And I can just tell you from my experience, when I started putting on more weight in the gym, I obviously had more muscle mass. Was it as optimal as doing like maybe 8 reps or 10 reps, going heavier on those? Maybe not. I mean, that's probably one of the things I should have focused on. But I mean, that's still like you're still trying to get stronger on even those movements where you do 8 to 10 reps. So like your muscle gains, like how you look, will obviously correlate with how strong you are. And to become strong, to have that kind of energy in the gym, you need to eat like a man. Like you can't just, I don't know, like I don't know if this point is making any sense. I just like threw it in there, just as like a little diet tip. But you want to really focus on eating well, getting in getting that protein, those carbs in, and really having good fueled workouts. Because I mean, think about it. If you're making the investment to go to the gym 3 times a week or whatever, and your calories are just off, you haven't had breakfast, you just chug down like 2 cups of coffee, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go in there, and you're dehydrated, and you're like, I'm gonna go in there, have this killer workout, I'm gonna hit all these PRs, and you just like fall flat after your first exercise. I mean, what are you doing, right? Like, especially if you factor in the time it takes you to get to the gym after your work or school, the gym and the time in the gym, obviously, getting home, eating, all that kind of stuff. I mean, you're doing all of this, but if you're not eating right, you're just like shooting yourself in the foot. You have to be eating in the right way to really make progress in the gym and to become stronger. So, guys, that was my video, my podcast on what you need to be focusing on. And let me just recap everything. Number one, set tangible strength goals. Don't worry too much about how you look or what you weigh. Number two, keep the workouts focused and simple. Number three, stop obsessing over your goals and really just focus on becoming consistent in the gym. And number four, eat like a man because you need to in order to see some kind of results in the gym. Alright, guys, that was everything for this episode. Again, thank you so much for the support you've been showing me. I really do appreciate it. Obviously, subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff on YouTube. If you're listening to this on podcast, really do appreciate your support. Leave me an honest rating. And that's everything for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was episode 14 of the Manly Mission Podcast with your host, Farhan Rana, signing out.